Hi guys. So today I'm going to be showing you how to work with native dropdowns in Scandium. So quickly let me show you what native dropdowns look like. So this is a native dropdown, also called a select menu or a select dropdown. So it is basically a list of items that you can then pick one from. So here is a native dropdown, here is a native dropdown, and a native dropdown right here also. We have another one right here. So this even has a disabled item. So now that I know what a native dropdown is, so let's see what it looks like when we're testing with Scandium. So I'll pick this URL and I'll come to test. So I'll paste the URL here. So now I'm going to create a test recording that I'm going to then manipulate such that I can have different values during my test run. So I'll click on the record button. So I'm clicking on the record button. Now I can start to pick my items. So in this case, so I'll pick Python, pick this, then I'll pick CSS. So I can even go on to pick something here also. So now that I've selected all of my values, I'm going to go on to stop the recording. So end recording. So now I can see a list of all my steps. So just for a quick reconfirmation, so I'm going to rerun the test. So I click on run. So now Scandium is running the test. We can see it has picked Python, it has picked TestNG, it has picked CSS, and here. So now I'm coming back to the list of steps. So now in this step two, we can see we picked Python during the recording. So now this text to assign field, it usually contain the value of the item that was selected. So now I could have Scandium use a different value. So ordinarily I could just do something like say I'll type in SQL. So now the next time Scandium is running it, it will try to pick the value that has SQL. So now I'm going to run the test just for a quick confirmation. So as you can see, it is picking SQL now instead of Python as we picked initially. So you've seen that. Now I could even make this a little more interesting. So such that I wanted to pick an item based on its position because I don't know what the next set of values is going to be, for instance. So I wanted to always pick, say, the second item on the list. So you have a little syntax that you can write for that. So in this text assign field, I can do something like this. So I could have index equal. So because I wanted to pick the second item, I'm going to go on to write two. So you have this little syntax here, index equal to. Then I'm going to run the test. I could pick three, for instance, just to show you differently. So I'll put three here. So I could do that for the rest of the steps. So in this case, I could have index to be two. So I'll run the tests now. So we can see it picked the third item on the list. So in this case, it picked the second item on the list. So now, again, I am not limited to just using the index. So I could use the label or the value of the element. So in most cases, you might not know what the value is because the value is usually hidden within the DOM, but you can know the label. So the label is what you see on the screen. So now we've seen the index usage. So you could use the label usage. So you could have label to be, say, Java in this case. So Java is my label. So I'm going to go on to run the test now and see if this works. So you can see it has picked Java as my selection. So like I did that, I could also then go on to do something like this. So I could say value equal. So if I know what the value is, so like I mentioned earlier, the value is not usually visible to the user, but if you inspect in your browser tree or your browser DOM, you would be able to see what the value is. So you can put in the value. So let's assume now this is a very big assumption that the value here, that is an item on the list that has the value Python. So I'm going to click on run now. Okay, so now you can see this error message here. Cannot find a drop down option with value equals Python. Check Scandium dashboard for details. So even though we can see the label Python here, it doesn't necessarily mean that the value is Python. So in this case, because I've inspected this element before, I know what the value is. I know that the value is actually Python, but with a small p, as against the capital P or the uppercase P that I used here. So if I change this to P now, the lowercase p, and rerun the test, it should pass. Okay, so we can see it has selected correctly based on the value. So this is to demonstrate that you are not limited to one way. So you could use index, like I showed you here. You could have this index equal, then you have the position. So starting from one, so the very first item on the list. So you could have label. Label is the text that you can see for the item. Then you could have value. Value is sort of hidden. So, or you could just leave this empty. So if you have the plain text here, so like this, so it'll try to use the value. So if you assume you just want to use the value. But if you want to get more specific, so that is where you can then put index. So the index, you could even make it dynamic by using the dynamic function. So you could have insert function here, and then you have it generate random numbers within a particular range. So I know that there are four items on that list. So I could have it generate any random number between 1 and 4. So if I run this test, it will usually pick a different item from the list. So just let's see how that works quickly. So we can see on the first run, it picked Java. So we're going to run this again and see if it gets randomized. So click on the run button again. So you see, in this case, without even having to do anything at all, it is now picking the second item on the list. So it means the random number that was generated must have been 2. So you have this power at your fingertips, so you can use it however you deem fit when you're working with native select dropdowns on Scandium. I hope you enjoy this. Bye.